Hello, I'm Brigantia, Blackbird of Blackbird's Brew. Happy Saturday and welcome to Wicca 202. We are beginning with Plant Week and today we are going to examine rosemary. I chose this herb because it is readily available and it's handy for a variety of purposes. And unlike other herbs, rosemary is relatively inexpensive. And if you have a sunny spot in your home, you may actually be able to grow your own rosemary year-round. It's also very practical for witches to keep rosemary because it is a near universal substitute for other magical ingredients. It isn't always going to be possible to have exactly the precise ingredient that you want to use in a spell or a ritual, so it is an absolute lifesaver to be aware of a few of the common substitutions that will serve the same purpose and allow you to get the job done. So let's begin with the mundane aspects. Rosemary's scientific designation is Salvia roseminarius. It is an evergreen plant, which means its leaves won't fade and they won't fall off. You have to actually snip them. It is a perennial, meaning that in proper conditions it will live longer than 2 years. And surprisingly, rosemary is actually a member of the mint family, which I was previously unaware of before preparing this class. It is native to the Mediterranean region. It's gone on to naturalize throughout a fair bit of Europe, which is surprising considering Europe's climate. But rosemary is hardy, meaning it will survive down to temperatures of 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So for areas that have winter temperatures that dip below 30 degrees, it would be better to grow rosemaries in pots and bring it in outside during the warmer months. That would be the situation I'm in. I am in plant zone 6A, I believe, and we definitely get temperatures below 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you live further south, this may be more practical for you to actually plant in your garden. Rosemary does like full sun, so 6 to 8 hours of full sunlight per day makes it very happy. Rosemary prefers soil conditions that are sandy, that drain very well. If you waterlog rosemary, it's just going to make your plant unhealthy and sickly, if not outright die. And it also prefers that the soil have either a neutral pH or is actually acidic. Rosemary generally grows to 2 to 6 feet tall, which I grant you, over time does make it a little bit tricky if we're growing it indoors, but still, it takes time for it to grow to that height. It also grows to about 2 to 4 feet wide. Again, if we are able to cultivate a rosemary plant indoors over a long period of time, we need to make sure that we have space for it to grow, or that we're going to trim it very, very regularly. However, if you live in hardiness zones 8 through 10, rosemary would not only survive outside, but you could actually use it to plant a rather charming privacy hedge that would also smell amazing. So that's something to keep in mind. When rosemary blooms, it has light blue to white flowers, and sometimes it will look very similar to lavender, but these are entirely different plants. And when you are ready to harvest, what you want to do is you want to take some gardening pruners or kitchen scissors and cut off 4 to 6 inch strips. Then you use them fresh or you allow them to dry, and then once they're dried, you keep them in an airtight container. Rosemary is a very common kitchen herb. It's particularly good for enhancing the flavors of baked chicken, at least in my opinion. It's also easily used in teas, and it's a good source of iron, calcium, and vitamin B6. In traditional medicine, rosemary has been renowned for helping people cope with muscular pain, improving their memories, boosting both their immunes and their circulatory systems, and even believed to promote hair growth. So, some things to keep in mind on the practical end. Now for the magical aspects. Rosemary is also known as elf leaf or old man. It's associated with the zodiac signs of Aries, Leo, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. It corresponds to the sun, the moon, and the planet Mercury. Rosemary's energy is very projective, so it's going outwards. It's sending forth. It's associated with the element of fire, the root chakra, fairies, and celebrations such as Walpurgis Night or Beltane and Yule. Rosemary corresponds with a wide variety of magical intentions. I'm only going to highlight a few here, so don't take this as a completely comprehensive list. But think the afterlife, death, and burial customs, banishing and bindings, blessings, creativity, defense and protection, that are both psychic and spiritual forms of protection. Dream work as a dream aid to help you remember your dreams. Breaking hexes and also protection from hexes. Heightening intuition, vitality and longevity. Magic generally. And then it also corresponds with relationships, whether they are platonic, familial, or romantic. It's good for memory enhancement, just generally. It also helps boost power, whether this is inner power, magical power, or mental power. It's useful for purification and renewal, willpower, and wisdom. Now, some of the common uses of rosemary include using it in magical teas, especially if you are wanting to awaken your senses or to help you recall things from dreams or pathworking meditations. A clairvoyance tea. There's plenty of recipes that you'll find online. Many of them incorporate rosemary for this very purpose. This herb is easily incorporated into your kitchen magic for a variety of purposes. I have found it particularly useful in promoting general good health. Then we have essential oil of rosemary that can be incorporated in small doses in bath water. Remember, with essential oils, always be careful about anything that's coming in contact with your skin. And even if you're putting in your bath water, you don't want to overdo it. You can put this essential oil into potions that you don't intend to consume. And you can even incorporate it into homemade cleaning supplies. Growing rosemary can enhance magical protections around the home. And if grown in a pot in the kitchen, it may be especially helpful in mitigating the potential for cooking disasters. So if you are prone to mishaps, having a bit of rosemary around might help steady your nerves, and it might help ward away some of the worst possible outcomes for you. You can incorporate rosemary into sachets to freshen up your dresser drawers or to place underneath your pillow while you sleep, again for that dream work and that memory enhancement. So those are just the common uses. Now it's time to get imaginative. And you got to keep in mind everything I've mentioned. These are things that I've tried out, I've done, I've had success with it, and you will find similar suggestions for the use of rosemary in most places on the internet and in most books that have to do with witchcraft. But let's not forget the versatility of this herb. And don't underestimate your own imagination and resourcefulness. Witchcraft is not about staying confined within the box. We're always trying new things, discovering new things, and finding on having unanticipated insights. So keep yourself open to ideas and look for opportunities for when using rosemary might be just the thing. Now, this brings us to our first homework assignment of Wicca 202. This will be for the week of September 3rd through the 9th. Number 1, create an entry in your notebook for rosemary and list its basic facts and attributes, both magical and mundane. 2, if you don't already have rosemary in your pantry, then if possible, obtain either dried or fresh rosemary from your local market. And at least 3 times this week, sit down and meditate holding the rosemary in your receptive hand. Just absorb its energy, listen, and then journal about your impressions. And 3, examine your personal circumstances and write down the ways in which both the mundane and the magical uses of rosemary would actually benefit you in your life. So you see, we are getting a lot more practically focused in this particular segment of Wicca 202. So if you have comments, questions, concerns, ideas, let me know in the comments section, or better yet, join our Gilded group. There's a link to do so in the description box below. You click on the link, it'll take you right to us. Come in, introduce yourself, and if you're wanting to discuss this particular class with me, just shoot me a message. If you like, we could even sit down sometime and have a voice and video call through the Gilded server, and you can just let me know what you're thinking, things you're dealing with the class, and any other magical issues that have come up that you just like to have someone to bounce ideas out of and kind of think things through out loud. So that does it for this week. I will see you next week when we are discussing the cat. So I hope you will be back then. But for this video, that'll be all, and I will see you next time. Bye.